I found my face on her secret website for men seeking new identities. It sounds insane, I know, like something out of a bad thriller, but this is my life, or what's left of it. The first time I saw it, my blood went cold. It was a small thumbnail, just a headshot. My headshot. The one I use for my LinkedIn profile, you know, the one I meticulously curated with good lighting and a carefully calibrated smile to project competence and approachability. Except this one was different. It was cropped tighter, the background subtly blurred, giving it an almost illicit passport photo but not quite vibe. Beneath it, a username I didn't recognize, Shadowman78. And then the description. It took me a minute to even process the words, my brain stuttering, trying to connect the dots of a reality that was actively unraveling before my eyes. Seeking discreet arrangement, it read. Professional background, no drama. Must be reliable, good listener. Reliable, good listener? I'm a project manager, for God's sake. Reliability and listening are literally in my job description. The sheer absurdity of it all hit me first, a hysterical laugh bubbling up in my throat before the icy tendrils of dread coiled around my chest. This couldn't be real. This had to be a prank, a sick, twisted joke. I mean, who would do this? And why my face? Why my life being advertised on some clandestine corner of the internet? Look, before we dive any deeper into this mess, I need you guys to stick with me. If any of this resonates with you, if it hits you in the gut the way it's hitting me, do me a solid. Hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss the next parts of this nightmare, and share it with anyone you think might understand. Drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, your theories. Your engagement genuinely helps me keep putting this out there, even when it feels like I'm tearing myself apart. Seriously, it means a lot. My wife, Sarah. That's who. It had to be Sarah. The thought hit me with the force of a physical blow. We were on this vacation, a much-needed escape to the Outer Banks. Sun, sand, the smell of salt in the air, the whole cliché postcard scene. We'd been together for 7 years, married for 5. 7 years of comfortable routine, shared jokes, late-night talks, the quiet intimacy that comes from building a life together. Or so I thought. My suspicion wasn't born of some dramatic, sudden revelation. It was a slow creep, a series of almost imperceptible shifts in the atmosphere of our relationship over the past year. Little things, easily dismissed at first. Her phone always face down, always within arm's reach. A new password on her laptop that she brushed off as a privacy concern after some minor data breach news. Those hushed phone calls she'd take in the other room, her voice dropping to a whisper, a nervous energy I hadn't seen in her before. I tried to bring it up, gently, casually. Everything okay, babe?
And she'd smile, that practiced, beautiful smile that could charm the birds out of the trees, and say, "Just work stuff, honey. You know how it is." Work. Always work. We were sprawled on the deck of our rented beach house, the late afternoon sun painting everything in shades of gold and orange. Sarah was reading, or pretending to, her brow furrowed in concentration over some glossy magazine. I had my laptop open, ostensibly catching up on a few emails, but mostly just enjoying the quiet proximity. It was during one of those moments of digital distraction, scrolling through some tech forum, that I stumbled upon it. A link, a thread discussing alternative online personas, identity masking, the digital underground. Curiosity, that fatal human flaw, got the better of me. I clicked, and then I scrolled, and then I saw my face. It wasn't just the face, though. It was the profile details that made my stomach churn. Attractive professional, discreet, financially independent, looking for someone to share experiences with, no strings attached, but with potential for genuine connection if it feels right. It felt like a twisted parody of our own relationship status. Discreet, shared experiences, potential for connection. This wasn't some random stranger posing with my photos. This was her persona. This was how she was presenting herself to the world, or at least to a very specific, very niche part of it. And she was using my face. My entire identity, it felt like, reduced to a profile picture on a digital hookup site. My hands started to shake. I closed the laptop with a snap, the sound echoing unnervingly in the sudden silence. Sarah looked up, her expression one of mild annoyance. "Everything all right, Mark?" she asked, her voice soft, but with an edge that I now recognized as carefully controlled. "Yeah," I managed, my voice rough. "Just bad connection out here." I walked inside, the cool air conditioning a stark contrast to the burning heat in my chest. I needed to think, to breathe, to somehow process the image that was seared into my mind. My face on a website for men seeking what? What was she seeking? And with whom? The implications were staggering, terrifying. Was this recent? Had she been doing this for a long time? The hushed calls, the guarded phone, the new passwords, it all clicked into place with a sickening finality. It wasn't work. It was this. I remembered a conversation we'd had a few months back about the pressures of our lives, the routine. She'd felt stifled, she'd said, like she was losing herself in the domesticity, the predictability. I tried to reassure her, to tell her how much I loved her, how much our life together meant to me. But maybe I hadn't been enough. Maybe she'd needed something more, something forbidden. And instead of talking to me, instead of finding a way to reignite whatever it was she felt was missing, she'd gone to this dark, digital underworld. And she'd taken me with her, in a way.
She'd stolen my face, my identity, and plastered it on a billboard for strangers. I went back out to the deck, my movements stiff, robotic. Sarah was still there, the magazine now lying forgotten on her lap. The sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and contort the familiar landscape into something alien. She looked up as I approached, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Enjoy your emails?" she asked, her tone light, teasing. I sat down beside her, the wood of the deck feeling unnaturally cold beneath me. I couldn't meet her eyes. The guilt, the anger, the profound sense of betrayal were warring within me. Part of me wanted to scream, to confront her, to demand an explanation. Another part, a weaker, more wounded part, just wanted to disappear, to pretend I hadn't seen anything. "Sarah," I started, my voice barely a whisper. "What is this website?" The smile vanished from her face. Her eyes, usually so warm and expressive, went suddenly guarded, almost blank. She didn't answer. She just stared out at the ocean, her jaw set. "I saw it," I pressed, the words tumbling out now, fueled by a rising panic. "My face, on a profile, for men." The silence that followed was deafening. The sound of the waves crashing on the shore, which had been a soothing backdrop just moments before, now sounded like a mournful dirge. Her breathing hitched, a tiny, almost inaudible sound. She finally turned to me, her gaze piercing, a mixture of fear and defiance in her eyes. "You were snooping," she said, her voice low and even, but laced with a dangerous tremor. "I wasn't snooping," I shot back, my voice rising. "I stumbled on it. It was right there, my picture. What the hell is going on, Sarah?" She looked away again, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice barely audible over the surf. "Then what is it?" I demanded, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Because right now, it looks like my wife is running a secret dating profile for herself, using my face and advertising it on some sketchy website for I don't even know what." She was silent for a long moment, her shoulders hunched. Then slowly, she reached for her phone, the one she always kept close. Her fingers, usually so quick and decisive, fumbled with the unlock code. She opened an app, a familiar one, a messaging app, and she turned the screen towards me. There, in the chat window, were messages. Messages from men. Messages with descriptions of what they were looking for. Requests for photos. Arrangements for meetings. And beneath them, in her replies, a chillingly detached tone, a professional efficiency that mirrored the profile I'd seen. And then I saw it. A message from Shadowman78, my profile, and her reply. "Interested. Let's talk about what you're looking for." Discreetly, of course. The air was sucked out of my lungs. My vision swam. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was real. She was real. This whole thing was real, and I was caught in the middle of it. My face, my identity, a pawn in a game I didn't understand. The betrayal was a physical ache, a crushing weight on my chest. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. The woman I loved, the woman I'd built a life with, had a secret life that was now laid bare before me. And it was a life that involved using my image to what? Entice other men? To experiment? To escape? I didn't know. And the not knowing, the sheer depth of her deception was almost more than I could bear. The sun had set now, leaving the sky a bruised purple. The only light came from the faint glow of her phone screen, illuminating the wreckage of our reality. I felt a profound sense of isolation, a chasm opening between us, vast and unbridgeable. I wanted to scream, to break something, to lash out, but all I could do was sit there, numb, staring at the evidence of her secret life, a life that had just shattered mine. And the worst part? She hadn't even really apologized. Just that quiet, almost defiant, "It's not what you think." But I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that it was exactly what I thought, and so much more. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, broken only by the rhythmic sigh of the waves. Sarah's phone, still in her hand, cast a sterile, bluish light on her face, making her features appear sharper, harder than I remembered. Her eyes, fixed on the glowing screen, were unreadable, a mask I suddenly couldn't penetrate. I watched her thumb hover over the keypad as if debating her next move, and the thought, sharp and unwelcome, pricked at me. What else was she hiding? This wasn't just a website, a profile. This was a whole other existence she'd built, brick by painstaking brick, while I stood blissfully ignorant on the outside. "So," I finally managed, my voice raspy, barely a whisper. "What am I thinking, Sarah?" She finally looked up, her gaze flicking from the phone to my face, and for a fleeting second, I saw a flicker of something akin to remorse, or maybe just fear. Then it was gone, replaced by that same guarded expression. "I don't know, Mark. You're seeing what you want to see. You're jumping to conclusions." Jumping to conclusions. My voice rose, the carefully maintained calm cracking. "My face is on a website, Sarah. My picture being used by you, apparently, to advertise yourself to other men. What other conclusion is there to jump to?" The anger was starting to boil over, a hot churning mass in my gut, but beneath it, a cold dread was setting in. This wasn't just a casual fling she was trying to cover up. This felt planned, calculated. She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling visibly. "It's not like that. It's complicated." "Complicated how?" I leaned forward, my elbows digging into my knees. "Explain it to me, Sarah." Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're running a secret side hustle, and I'm your unwitting model. She finally lowered the phone, placing it on the deck beside her. Her hands, I noticed, were clasped tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. I needed a way to feel seen, Mark, to feel desired, not just as a wife or a project manager, but as myself, as a woman. Her voice was low, almost a confession, but the words felt rehearsed, lacking the raw emotion I would have expected. "And using my face was the best way you could think of to do that?" The sarcasm dripped from my words, bitter and sharp. "You couldn't find a decent photographer, a stylish outfit? You had to slap my mug on a profile to get attention?" A flash of anger crossed her face. "It's not about my looks, Mark. It's about the connection, the anonymity, the idea of starting fresh with someone who doesn't know my history, my baggage. And seeing your face, it felt safe. It felt like a shield, like I could experiment without any real risk." "Safe?" I scoffed. "You think this is safe? You think this doesn't have consequences? What if one of these guys recognizes me? What if they know me? You've painted a target on my back, Sarah." "Nobody knows who I am," she insisted, her voice gaining a desperate edge. And nobody knows who Shadow Man 78 really is. It's just a persona, a game. A game? I repeated, the word echoing in the sudden stillness. You're playing a game with my life, my reputation, and you're using my face to do it. And the worst part, Sarah, I said, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl, is that you didn't even bother to tell me. You let me find out like this, on some seedy website, like I was just some dumb schmuck who wouldn't notice his own face being used for whatever this is. She flinched, and for a moment I thought she might cry, but then she straightened her shoulders, her gaze hardening again. I was going to tell you. I needed to figure out how. You're so settled, Mark, so content with our life. I didn't want to upset you. I didn't want you to think less of me. Think less of you? I let out a humorless laugh. Sarah, you've just blown up everything we've built. What else am I supposed to think? That you're a secret agent? That you're running a sting operation? Because right now, it feels a lot more like you're a woman who's incredibly unhappy and is willing to go to extreme lengths to get what she wants, even if it means using me as a prop. The accusation hung in the air between us. She didn't deny it. She just looked away, her gaze drifting back to the ocean, a vast, indifferent expanse. Who are you trying to meet, Sarah? I asked, my voice softer now, the anger giving way to a profound, aching confusion. What is it you're looking for that you can't find with me? She hesitated for a long moment, tracing patterns on the wooden deck with her fingertip. Someone who sees me, she finally whispered. Someone who makes me feel alive. You've become so predictable, Mark. Our life, it's become a comfortable routine, and I'm suffocating in it. I need excitement, danger, something that makes my heart race. The word struck me like a physical blow. Predictable, suffocating. These were the very things I'd worked so hard to avoid. I thought we had a good life, a stable, loving, secure life. But apparently for Sarah, that wasn't enough. She craved a different kind of thrill, a different kind of connection, and she'd found it in the shadows of the internet. So you created this alter ego, I mused, trying to piece it all together, using my face as a mask. And you're meeting these guys. What happens then? You just talk? You go on dates? She shook her head, her eyes finally meeting mine, and this time there was a raw vulnerability in them. Sometimes it's just online, talking, sharing fantasies, and sometimes it's more. She paused, her voice catching. But it's never real. Not for me. It's a performance. And I always come back to you. To us. Always. I echoed, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. You expect me to believe that? You're meeting other men, Sarah. You're sharing your fantasies with them. And you expect me to just accept that this isn't real. It's not. She insisted, her voice trembling. It's a distraction, an escape. It's about feeling something, anything, other than the monotony. And I was careful, so careful. I never would have let it go too far. I wouldn't betray you like that. The irony was crushing. She was sitting here, admitting to using my face on a website for men seeking discreet arrangements, admitting to meeting other men, and she was telling me she wouldn't betray me. It was a level of delusion I couldn't comprehend. But you already have, Sarah, I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. You've betrayed me by hiding this, by lying, by using my face, my identity, to build this secret life.
You've taken away my agency. You've made me a participant in something I never agreed to, something I find abhorrent. She reached out, her hand hovering uncertainly over my arm, but I pulled away. I couldn't bear her touch right now. It felt tainted, like everything about her did. "Mark, please," she pleaded, her voice thick with unshed tears. "Don't say that. We can fix this. I can delete the profile. I can stop. I panicked when you found out. I didn't know what else to do. Delete the profile." I laughed again, a harsh, broken sound. "You think deleting a website makes this go away? This is out there now, Sarah. This is part of our story. And I have to deal with the fact that my wife, the woman I love, is capable of this level of deception." I stood up, the deck planks creaking under my weight. I needed to get away, to breathe air that wasn't thick with her lies. "Where are you going?"
She asked, her voice small and lost. "I don't know," I admitted. "Somewhere. Anywhere. I can't be here right now. Not with you, not with this knowledge." I walked towards the house, my steps heavy. The image of my face on that profile, juxtaposed with Sarah's confession, was a dizzying, nauseating cocktail of emotions. Anger, hurt, confusion, and a chilling sense of loss. The life I thought I knew, the woman I thought I loved, had dissolved before my eyes, replaced by a stranger with a secret life I couldn't even begin to fathom. As I reached the door, I turned back. Sarah was still sitting on the deck, a small, solitary figure bathed in the dim light of the porch lamp. She looked utterly heartbroken, and a small, traitorous part of me ached for her. But the greater part of me was consumed by a swirling vortex of doubt and betrayal. "One more thing," I said, my voice tight. "That username, Shadowman78. Why Shadowman?" She looked up, her eyes widening slightly. It's just a username, Mark. I don't know." But something in her reaction, a flicker of unease, a subtle shift in her posture, told me that wasn't the whole truth. It was a small detail, insignificant perhaps, but in the wreckage of our trust, every detail felt loaded with meaning. I had a gut feeling, a cold, creeping certainty that Shadowman78 was more than just a random moniker. It was a piece of this puzzle I hadn't yet unlocked, a key to understanding the depth of Sarah's secrets and the terrifying extent to which I was involved. I closed the door behind me, the click echoing in the sudden empty house, leaving Sarah alone with the waves and the secrets she'd woven into the fabric of our lives. I needed a drink, a strong one, and I needed to figure out what the hell was going on, because the woman I thought I married had just revealed herself to be a ghost in my own life, and I was starting to suspect she wasn't the only one with a hidden identity. The phrase "Shadow Man" resonated in my mind, a dark premonition. Was there another Shadow Man? Or was Shadowman78 a reference to something, someone, or some past event I didn't know about? The confusion was a physical ache. I pulled out my phone, my fingers already typing. I needed to search for Shadowman78. It was a long shot, a desperate attempt to find a solid piece of information in a sea of lies, but I had to try. The screen glowed, a beacon in the encroaching darkness, and then I saw it. A profile picture. Not my face this time. A different man, older, weathered, and underneath the username, Shadowman78. But the accompanying text, it wasn't about dating. It was a forum for private investigators, and the post was titled, "Seeking Discreet Information on Mark Peterson, Lifestyle, Associations, Financial Records, Urgent." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a dating profile. This was something else entirely. This was someone actively looking for dirt on me. And Sarah was the one facilitating it. But why? What did she want to know? And who was paying for it? The implications were staggering. The confusion morphed into a primal fear. I wasn't just a victim of her infidelity. I was potentially being investigated, and my own wife was the mole. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't just about her seeking something from other men. It was about her actively working against me. My world wasn't just shattered. It was under siege, and I had no idea who the enemy was or how deep the conspiracy ran. The cold dread wasn't just a premonition anymore. It was a physical weight crushing my chest. The phone in my hand felt like a live grenade. Private investigators, seeking information on me. Mark Peterson. My lifestyle, associations, financial records. Urgent. And Sarah, my wife, the woman who slept beside me, the one I'd built my entire life with, was the conduit, the prostitute of my private life. I scrolled through the forum, my eyes darting over cryptic replies, burner email addresses, and the chillingly efficient language of surveillance. It wasn't a personal vendetta. It was a contract. Someone had hired her, or whatever Shadow Man 78 truly represented, to dig into my life. And she was doing it, with my face plastered on a dating site as a decoy, a smokescreen, while the real work of espionage was being done. The sheer audacity of it, the calculated duality, made my stomach churn. I looked at my own reflection in the dark screen of my phone, a stranger staring back. Was this the face of a man who was being targeted by his own wife? The face of someone about to be systematically dissected by strangers hired by his own flesh and blood? The anger that had been simmering was now a roaring inferno, scorching away any remnants of pity or confusion. This wasn't about her feeling unseen or unappreciated anymore. This was something far more sinister. This was about power, about control, about what? Who was this client hiring a PI to investigate me? And what were they looking for? My mind raced, trying to connect the dots. The website, the fake profile, the private investigator forum. It was a multi-layered deception. Sarah wasn't just unhappy. She was actively orchestrating a campaign against me. And the Shadow Man 78 persona. It wasn't a game. It was a business, a clandestine operation. The Shadow Man wasn't just a handle. It was a role, a professional role. And she was playing it with chilling precision. I stumbled back into the house, the silence amplifying the frantic pounding of my heart. Every shadow seemed to writhe with unseen eyes. The comfortable familiarity of our living room now felt alien, a stage set for a drama I was only just beginning to understand.
I walked into the kitchen, the sterile brightness of the overhead lights doing nothing to dispel the darkness that had descended upon my world. I opened the refrigerator, not looking for food, but for something to numb the shock. A bottle of whiskey. The cheap stuff, but it would have to do. I poured a generous shot, the amber liquid catching the light, and downed it in one go. The burn was a welcome distraction from the ice-cold terror gripping me. I needed answers, not from Sarah, not anymore. She was a willing participant in this charade, a traitor. I needed to understand who was behind this and why I was the target. I sat at the kitchen table, the rough wood cool beneath my trembling hands. The Shadow Man 78 profile on the PI forum. It was the only concrete clue. I'd saved the link, a morbid bookmark in the unraveling of my life. My fingers, clumsy with shock, navigated back to the page. The post was still there, and there were replies, private messages. I clicked on one, an anonymous one, with a username that was a string of numbers and letters. It was from Shadow Man 78. Information secured. Preliminary findings confirm subject's routine. Financials show recent unusual activity. Associations unclear, but several individuals with known ties to sensitive industries are present. Full report requires more extensive surveillance. Next steps. My breath hitched. Sensitive industries. What did that even mean? My life was mundane, predictable, built on spreadsheets and quarterly reports at a mid-tier marketing firm. What sensitive industries could I possibly be associated with? Unless they were referring to Sarah's dealings. The money she was making from these online encounters, the discreet payments, the clandestine meetings. Was that the unusual financial activity? Was I being investigated because she was involved in something that had drawn the attention of others? I scrolled down, my eyes scanning the brief business-like exchanges. The client was demanding. They wanted to know about my business dealings, my personal life, my contacts. They were digging for something specific, something they believed I was hiding. But I wasn't hiding anything. Or rather, the only thing I had been blindsided by was Sarah's deception. Then I saw another message, this one from the client's designated contact person, Investigator Alpha. Continue surveillance. Focus on Mark Peterson's business associates. Any contact with the overseas division. Specifically, any communication with Mr. Jian Li. His name has surfaced in connection with irregularities. Jian Li. The name echoed in the cavernous space of my shock. Jian Li was the VP of our APAC division. He was based in Shanghai. We'd spoken a few times on video calls, mostly about market penetration strategies. He was professional, reserved, and I'd never had any reason to suspect him of anything other than a keen business sense. But irregularities? Overseas division?
This was a whole new layer of complexity, a geopolitical espionage thriller playing out in my suburban kitchen. And Sarah, my wife, was the private investigator hired to dig into it, or rather her persona, Shadow Man 78, was. But who was the Shadow Man 78 that Jian Li was supposedly communicating with in a PI forum? Was it Sarah? Or was Sarah using someone else's identity? The thought of her being so deeply entangled in something so dangerous, so far beyond the scope of a simple affair, was terrifying. I needed to know if Shadow Man 78 was Sarah. I had to know. I went back to the dating profile again, the one with my face. It was still live. And there, in the bio section, under a vague, alluring description of seeking adventure and connection, was a small, almost hidden detail. A link. A link to a personal blog. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The thread that would either unravel everything or lead me into deeper darkness. I clicked the link. It opened to a simple, minimalist blog. The title read, Echoes of the Day. The posts were short, introspective, and eerily poetic. They spoke of longing, of hidden desires, of the suffocating weight of routine. And the author? The author used a pseudonym, Luna. Luna. It didn't immediately connect to Sarah, not directly, but something about the tone, the subtle undercurrent of desperation, felt familiar. I scrolled through the posts, my eyes glued to the screen. And then I saw it, in a post dated 3 months ago, titled, The Mask I Wear. He thinks he knows me. He sees the wife, the manager, the comfortable routine. He sees the woman who makes him breakfast, who listens to his stories about work. But he doesn't see the shadow beneath the surface, the woman who craves the illicit thrill, the forbidden connection, the woman who uses a stolen image, a borrowed face, to explore the edges of her own desire. He is my anchor, my safe harbor. But the sea calls to me, and sometimes the shadow must play. My face swam before my eyes. A stolen image, a borrowed face. That was it. Sarah was Luna, and Luna was Shadow Man 78. The dating profile with my face was Luna's advertising. The PI forum was Shadow Man 78's business. She was living a double, triple, quadruple life. She was the architect of my unwitting involvement in this sordid affair, and she was also the investigator, probing the very depths of my life for reasons I still couldn't fully grasp. But why was Jian Li involved? Why was he being investigated? And why was Sarah as Shadow Man 78, the one digging into it? Was it a coincidence? Or was she deliberately hired to investigate him because of his connection to me? Or perhaps she was hired by Jian Li himself to investigate me. The possibility was both absurd and terrifying. I lean back in the chair, the cool wood of the table a stark contrast to the burning in my veins. I felt a profound sense of emptiness, a hollow ache where my trust used to be. Sarah wasn't just a cheating wife. She was a phantom, a deceiver, a mercenary of information. And I was the pawn in a game I didn't understand, my life being dissected and analyzed by the very woman I thought loved me. I pulled out my phone again, my fingers no longer trembling, but moving with a cold, grim determination. I opened my contacts and found Jian Li's number. It was a long shot, a gamble, but I had to do something. I couldn't let this play out in the shadows. I had to bring it into the light, even if the light was blinding and searing. I hesitated for a moment. Then I hit dial. The phone rang. Once, twice. My breathing was shallow, ragged. On the third ring, a voice answered, crisp and formal, tinged with a Mandarin accent. "Mark? Is everything all right?" My voice was a dry rasp. "Jian, we need to talk, face to face. Now. It's about a potential security breach regarding my personal life." A beat of silence. Then a cautious reply. "A security breach? Mark, what are you talking about?" "I'll explain when I see you," I said, my voice hardening with resolve. "Make it happen, Jian. This is urgent, very urgent." I hung up the phone, the silence that followed more deafening than any sound. I stood up, the legs of the chair scraping against the floor. The whiskey was doing little to steady my nerves, but it had cleared my head, pushing away the confusion and leaving a raw, primal need for truth. I looked around the kitchen, at the life Sarah and I had supposedly built together. It was all a lie, a carefully constructed facade behind which she'd been operating her own secret life. The betrayal was so profound, so multifaceted, that it felt like a physical wound. But beneath the pain, a new emotion was surfacing, a steely resolve. I wouldn't be a victim. I wouldn't be a pawn. I would uncover the truth, no matter how ugly it was. I walked out of the house, leaving the lights on, the silence behind me a testament to the wreckage I was leaving in my wake. The night air was cool, a stark contrast to the heat of my internal storm. I didn't know what Jian Li would say or what he would reveal, but I knew one thing for sure. The comfortable, predictable life I thought I had was gone forever. It had been replaced by a labyrinth of deception, and I was now navigating it alone, armed only with the shards of my shattered trust and a desperate hunger for the truth. The Shadow Man 78 persona, the PI form, Jian Li, the sensitive industries, it all pointed to a conspiracy that reached far beyond my marriage, a conspiracy that my own wife had become entangled in and had dragged me into with her. As I got into my car, the engine turning over with a rumble, I felt a chilling certainty settle over me. This wasn't just about Sarah and me anymore. This was about something much bigger, and I was right in the middle of it. The final exhale, not of defeat, but of a grim, dawning awareness. The game had changed, and I was no longer just playing defense.